my umbrella. Guess what my umbrella's got on it?
Butterflies, no surprise. I'm Sharon Brett Kelly, and today on The Detail, I'm on a monarch butterfly hunt in suburban Auckland. And I'm with Jackie Knight of Moths and Butterflies of New Zealand. And I also want to find out, what is the status of the monarch butterfly at the moment? Because I've seen some stories, things don't look good for it. I also want to find out, what about our endemic moths and butterflies? Because we don't hear so much about them. So where are we off to, Jackie?
We're going to the Blockhouse Bay Recreational Reserve Butterfly Habitat.
But we are here on the slimmest hope that there might be a butterfly. We might find
around.
one monarch, maybe, if we're lucky. You're saying things are pretty grim at the moment.
Things are grim. Now these she oaks here, these trees here called she oaks,
Yeah.
they were overwintering here a few years ago. So what you do is look up into the tree, stand on the sunny side, which is the northern side, and you just see 10 or 20 monarchs very close together. In fact, you probably wouldn't recognise them as being butterflies, because it would just look like a dead piece of tree.
Would it?
And then as you watch, you might see that they're moving. So they stay like that over the winter, and they only come out on sunny days to go and get nectar. So that's why we planted lots of nectar flowers over here, and we've got shelter, and we've got all the things that a butterfly needs. So let's go and see if we can see some butterflies.
Let's go and have a look. Your cause is very passionate, but you're under-resourced, underfunded.
Yes.
You're kind of overshadowed by what many people would say are bigger problems of pest eradication, getting rid of the possum, saving the kiwi, that kind of thing. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Let's be honest, you just don't have the attention that other environmental projects get.
Yeah. There's so many needs out there. That's the problem, Sharon.
Oh, the sun's come out again. So
isn't it
what do you
beautiful
think?
when the sun comes through those trees?
Yeah. Oh, that's a healthy-looking swan plant. You don't call it a swan plant. You call it a
Milkweed.
Milkweed.
Milkweed is the generic word for them. In New Zealand, we refer to them as swan plant because the seed pods look like a little swan. See that?
Yes, they do. Did you say that the other day there was a little project to look for monarchs here and found nothing?
Yeah. I'm over here quite frequently, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and I just look out for monarchs. But I went to Jellicoe Park in Onehunga the other day. I saw one monarch approaching the trees that they used to overwinter in. There's no signs of any monarchs there, and it just kept flying around looking very confused and then flew away.
And you think that's because of the wasps?
It could be several things. The wasp numbers, with all the people that are working towards saving the monarch in New Zealand, by using butterfly houses and caterpillar castles to raise them and release them, it's just incredible that the numbers are not increasing.
So wasps are only one factor?
They're only one factor. I mean, some people were raising them, but in the end they were actually raising monarch diseases because they weren't doing it in a hygienic way. I mean, if there's a monarch disease sitting on this leaf, for example, there's so many other things going on around here that it doesn't get a chance to really replicate. But if you put all your monarchs into a caterpillar castle or something and it's unhygienic, then that disease is just going to be rife. I learned that the hard way.
That happened to you?
It happened to me. I tried to save hundreds of caterpillars that were being taken on swan plants somebody pulled out and taken to the dump. But I tried to save them all, and it was just turned to custard, as it were.
So wasps, diseases,
all the natural predators, as well as, and parasites, as well as the social wasps.
What are the natural predators?
Praying mantis will eat them, skinks we think, hedgehogs we think will eat the chrysalises.
Do the birds like them?
Birds don't like monarchs because they taste bad, because they eat glycosides in the leaves, and that makes them distasteful, and that's their protection. But birds love admiral caterpillars. Yeah, the admiral caterpillars, probably the coppers and the blues as well.
No sign of a...
No sign of anything. Right, do we head back?
Yeah, we'll head back. How long do they usually last for?
Monarchs will live for 6 months or something in the winter, but in the summer they take around about a month to go from egg to adult, and then they will live about 6 to 8 weeks after they've finished laying all their eggs, the females, or mating with females, a succession of females for the males. They've used up all their sperm and then they've finished doing what they're here to do.
Well, wouldn't it be a sad thing if we didn't see a monarch anymore in our
It
gardens?
certainly would be very sad, yes. The complaint about no monarchs is common in Auckland, not so bad in Christchurch, where I think there might be more gardeners down there. Or perhaps the gardens down there are less modern, because if you go and buy a plant today that you hear me talking about, you might buy the wrong variety that's just been invented by a plant breeder and it's got reduced nectar quality.
Well, we're heading to the garden city Christchurch to talk to the butterfly man himself, entomologist Brian Patrick, who's published a book with his son Hamish called Butterflies of the South Pacific. Except there's been a bit of a communication mix-up. Brian is in RNZ's Christchurch studio, but I'm still in Auckland. And I hear that you've brought a monarch in for me.
As I pulled my garage door up this morning, a monarch was sitting on the wet ground, and so I thought I'd bring a live butterfly in for you. That'd be something different.
I'm so disappointed that I don't get to see it.
Actually, yeah, and it's been a poor season for monarchs nationwide too. So it's just one of those years.
Well, I was going to ask you, how is the butterfly hunt going?
Well, it's been generally a poorer year than normal for all our moths and butterflies. So whether it relates to temperature or environmental conditions or something else, we don't know.
And how worrying is it for you that it's been a bad season, been a bad year?
No, it's not worry, because we live in a dynamic, over geological time, climate and all those things are dynamic. So we need to see a pattern. One year doesn't tell the story necessarily.
When I was talking to Jackie up here in Auckland, she's really worried about the very low numbers of monarchs in Auckland.
That's easily explained, though. The monarch is an odd one out, remember. The monarch is native to New Zealand, got here by itself. It's basically a tropical Mexican butterfly from southern Mexico that goes into temperate regions, in other words, to southern Canada, across the United States, once a year. And then about the 1830s, it did what humans did, it went global. And arrived in New Zealand. It was seen here by William Colenso, the early missionary, in the 1830s in New Zealand. But it took till about the 1860s for Europeans in New Zealand to realise, there is no native swan plant for the female to lay her eggs on. So we've got to bring the plant in. So in our book, we call it an assisted native. But to stay here, to breed here, we've got to supply the plant. There is no native swan plant in New Zealand. So it's one of 4 butterflies that breeds in the wild in New Zealand, but we have to supply the plant.
Jackie thinks that the reason the numbers are so low this year is because of the increased wasp numbers. Are you saying that's not necessarily so?
It's part of the problem. It's definitely a major part of the problem. The paper wasps and the European wasps do certainly, but they've been doing that for many, many years, and we've had some fantastic monarch numbers in some of those years when wasps were out there too. I suspect it's a combination of less people planting the plant out, the wasps, maybe the poor summer for butterflies and moths that we've had this year. We need to look at a trend over several years to see what it is. But the wasps are certainly, in my opinion, agreeing with Jackie, the biggest of those problems.
How are you monitoring these butterflies?
Well, I've got a whole lot of sites I go out to, and I go on literally thousands of expeditions. On a Canterbury Botanical Society field trip to Mount Fox last November, I passed trip number 5,000. I've documented my field trips, my scientific field trips, since the 1st of January 1970, and I've just passed 5,100.
Gosh, well, congratulations.
Yes, thank you. So, and all those original diaries and sketches are in the Otago Museum with my original pinned collection. And but I'm still keeping the diaries going in retirement. And so I do a lot of monitoring and surveying and just general observations.
And what do your expeditions entail? How do you go about it?
What I document, so I give it a number, of course, and a date. I put the weather conditions. I document who I'm with and who I meet up with, because I'm a sociable entomologist. I go out there and I talk to people. I show them what I'm looking at, and I like to hear what they're seeing too, because I can't see everything. And then I document all the key plants and the key insects and birds and whatever that I see. And obviously emphasising New Zealand moths and butterflies. Coppers
are your specialty, I believe?
No, some of the day-flying moths are probably more my specialties.
I see.
But I'm interested in the coppers, but no, I'm into a lot of the day-flying moths. We've got, in one family of New Zealand moths, the Geometridae, we've got 125 day-flying species.
Why should we care about, because you think about moths and you just think about an ugly brown thing that eats our wool and
Oh no, if you
things.
saw my day-flying moth, if you saw my business card in retirement, you'd realise how gorgeous they are. I did a set of stamps with New Zealand Post a few years ago on Notarius moths, and we did 6 stamps showing how gorgeous they are.
What do they look like?
They're like a small copper butterfly, and they're striped yellow, orange. Some have got red, brown, black and white. They're just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And day flying, and they're found from the highest mountains. Some are over 2,000 metres up our mountains as specialists, right down to sea level and even some offshore islands. But the South Island is the central biodiversity for them, as it is for all New Zealand Lepidoptera and our plants as well.
Why should we care so much about our own butterflies and moths?
There's several reasons. Aesthetically, I'm in love with them. I just love their form, their antics. But they pollinate our flowers. If they're evolved with our flowering plants. So our flowering plants depend on them to take the male bits to the female bits. And so ecologically, they're really integral to our environment, and let alone our crops, the food we eat, and everything from our flowers and our gardens to our lawns, everything. Everything depends on them. They all work together, and that's the ecological part of me, looking at the connections. And but, just the diversity of them is important enough too. It lifts me, and I'm sure it lifts lots of people to see the diversity of nature out there every day.
From all your more than 5,000 expeditions out there, do you have a really memorable one?
Yes, 23rd of February 1983 to the Lammermoor Range. My brother-in-law worked for the Ministry of Works Hydrology Department, and he saw these wonderful snowbanks and wonderful herb fields and snow tussock grasslands on the Lammermoor Range. It's sort of inland from Dunedin, and he recommended I go there. So him and his colleagues took me there on the 23rd of February 1983, and I discovered something like 6 new species of New Zealand moth that day in that place. And so that was memorable.
How did you discover them? I mean, how did you find them?
They were flying around in the daytime. We've since named a few of them, formally named them. It was just an absolute wonderful place on a gorgeous day that they four-wheel drive me in there. And I've been back, probably 30 times since. There are Lepidoptera that are hatching for the first time in the season right through in late April, early May. We have a lot of early winter emerging Lepidoptera in New Zealand across many different families of moths and butterflies. We even got a copper butterfly in eastern mid-Canterbury here around Christchurch that comes out in wintertime that I discovered when I first arrived here in Christchurch 12 years ago. Couldn't believe it. A winter copper. Nobody had reported it before.
Is there a particular butterfly that you're most worried about?
There's several that my monitoring is showing are decreasing in number. One of them is the Milford Sound boulder copper, And I've worked with Department of Conservation to see if it's still around, and I've suggested a strategy in the coming years how we should look for it in other similar places to Milford Sound. But it was found by John Salmon way back in the 1940s and named by him. And I found it in the 1970s and 80s, and I haven't found it many times since. So, and there's another boulder copper at Crystals Beach down in South Otago, sort of on the coast from Milton. It's another boulder copper that appears to have disappeared, maybe gone extinct. In my mind, it could be overzealous herbicide and pesticide use. Instead of being smart and pulling out a weed, we go and spray a wide area to kill that one plant. I say get out of your vehicle rather than spraying from the window of your vehicle. Get out of the vehicle and pull it out by hand, and don't use your spray at all if you don't have to. And
Brian, do you think that you'll keep discovering more new species?
Yes, absolutely. Every day I wake up, I'm out there observing and looking for new species or species in a new place or whatever. So I'm interested in the biogeography, finding species in new areas, as well as finding new species and new times a year, all the things, plus the life histories. I'm really big on the life histories. I've been doing that since the mid-1960s as a young boy, breeding caterpillars and seeing what they turn into. Still doing that, and I published my lifelong list a few years ago in the Canterbury Botanical Society Journal, matching up our 2,000 or so native moths and butterflies with the 2,000 or so native plants. So that was a real satisfying to get that done and published.
All right. Brian, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for making the effort. What will happen to that monarch?
I'll let it go on Budlear at home. It'll probably go, if it continues to get warmer here today, it'll be feeding and flying around. No, monarchs hibernate, but they come in and out of hibernation all winter, depending on the temperatures.
Where shall we start the grand tour at the butterfly houses?
Let's start there, yeah. We're in Jackie Knight's little suburban garden now, which is devoted to butterflies with bright flowers year-round, and 2 butterfly houses. Why should we care so much about our native moths and butterflies?
Because most of them, if they disappear, we will never get them back again. Now, when a butterfly species in Britain is lost, sometimes they've been able to go to other parts of Europe to find them. But New Zealand's endemic species, Lepidopterist species, that's butterflies and moths, 93% of them only exist in New Zealand. So if we lose them, they're gone forever. That's a red admiral chrysalis.
Yeah, so that's just hanging off the wall of your
of the butterfly house. But usually they pupate somewhere like here. I put this in as shelter because red admirals in New Zealand are actually treetop butterflies. So I thought a bit of shelter would encourage them to have more of a
you've
link.
got these kind of ribbons.
Camouflage cloth. Yeah.
Oh, camouflage cloth.
Yeah,
okay.
to make it just...
And is it working?
Well, certainly we've had great success with the Red Admiral project, but I'm not very good at breeding them. But what we do is Neville actually has them mating and laying eggs. When he gets a lot of eggs, he brings them here. I send out a message to our Google group and they come and collect eggs or caterpillars off me and take them home to their places. And they've all got butterfly houses or they've got caterpillar castles to raise them in. A caterpillar castle is like a small version of a butterfly house. It's portable.
Neville is who?
He's in Newland, just another member.
Tell me about red admirals. What makes them special?
The red admiral is only found in New Zealand. There are other red admirals in the world, but in New Zealand we have one that's only found in New Zealand. It's endemic to New Zealand.
What's the Māori name for it?
Kahukura. It's quite amazing. You can see the blue of the paua, its eye spots on its wings, and the scarlet or the crimson of the pahutakawa. That's why it's so special for New Zealand. So inside the butterfly house you've got to have lots of nectar plants, and I've got a few cuttings growing here. These are pentas. And also you have to have stinging nettle for them to lay on. So that's what Neville does so well. And then I'll just hold them here and distribute them to all the people in the Google Red Admiral group.
What sort of state are the kahukura in terms of, are they endangered? Are they?
If you go down to Canterbury and Otago, you can find them quite frequently. And also the Utica ferox, that's the onga onga, grows in the wild there. In Auckland, they seem to have died out since about the year 2000, when Auckland was sprayed with pesticide to get rid of the painted apple moth. But we have successfully reintroduced them 2 years ago to Auckland, and now we're just trying to get them breeding. So we need people planting stinging nettle. This butterfly house here, this has my monarchs in it. Now there's obviously a lot more in the summer, so we're coming to the end of our butterfly season. And there's a monarch caterpillar here behind you. That's quite a large one, Laston star.
Yeah, that's a sort of a very familiar...
Black and white in his pyjamas, we say.
Oh, okay.
In his striped pyjamas, and this one's just made its chrysalis here.
Yeah. So how long will that one sit there for?
It could be some weeks because it's just so cold. In the summer, it might be 2 weeks at the most before it becomes a butterfly.
The thing about monarchs is that they're not endemic to New Zealand. No. And so that made me think, if we have all these other endemic butterflies, and you've got a lovely line of them on your T-shirt here, why do monarchs get so much publicity?
I know in my school days, which was 50, 60 years ago, every classroom had a nature table, and always somebody would bring a monarch caterpillar to school on a little bit of swan plant. So we'd learn about the monarch life cycle and things. You wouldn't get children bringing stinging nettle into school, of course. But the monarch is big and it's not afraid of humans, whereas if there was a red admiral here, it would probably fly away. Coppers are so small, blues are so small that you probably don't even see them.
But is it to the detriment of the other butterflies, of our native butterflies?
I don't think so. I don't believe so. Because it gets you interested in butterflies.
Shall we go back inside, because it's starting to rain a bit, and you're going to show me how you tag a monarch.
I will.
And everywhere we look in your room, Jackie, are butterflies. They're on your cushions, they're on your walls.
Correct.
So what are we looking at? You've got the monarch between your fingers.
So this monarch came out earlier. So this is a sheet of tags.
And it's just a small
They're very hard to read, but every one of them's got a unique code on it, and then it's also got our website on there.
So you take that off.
So I use a toothpick because I don't want to put my oils onto the tag.
It's a dot of a...
It's about the same size as my small fingernail. And then I have it on the end of the toothpick, and I put it on the wing. And then I press down, not enough to hurt the butterfly, but just for it to stay on, and then I let the butterfly go. And the second part of the exercise is that I go online and record the details. Was it male or female? And then we let this butterfly go.
Are they like pets to you?
No. No. Some people name them. Some people call their caterpillars cats, which is quite infuriating. I don't go there.
You've even got butterfly face tattoos, temporary face tattoos.
Do you want one, do you? Do you want one, do you?
You've got no shortage of butterfly paraphernalia here.
Yeah. Yep.
Tell me about the forest ringlet. I had never heard of it until I was looking on your website yesterday about the project.
So the forest ringlet is found in very remote high areas in New Zealand, like the Denniston Plateau or the Coromandel Peninsula. There are other places as well. But it's only found in New Zealand, and it's the only one of its genus, which means that if it becomes extinct, then we will never replace it. And so the numbers of it are in serious decline.
Any idea how many?
No idea. But every year it seems like they're not found here, not found there. So we're trying to find out why they're dying out and what we can do to help them.
What does it look like? Have you got it in your collection?
One here. It has beautiful brown and golden wings on its upper sides, But if you look underneath, you can see why it's also given the name silver streak. And so when it flies, it just looks like a streak of silver flying. I'll never get to see a forest ringlet in the live.
Oh, you won't?
No, I'm beyond my mountain climbing days. But, anything I can do to help, I'll do that.
That's it for today. Thanks to Jackie Knight and Brian Patrick. The Detail is a newsroom production supported by RNZ and NZ On Air. Alexia Russell produced this episode and Alex Harmer engineered it. I'm Sharon Brett Kelly. Ka kite.